In 4.5 minutes, I'm going to give you proof that atheism is a religion. Hold on. So recently, Neil deGrasse Tyson was interviewing Richard Dawkins. I think it was about a year ago. And they were discussing all sorts of things, like Dawkins' book, The Selfish Gene. And they were talking about the development of evolution in general, etc. And one of the things that really just kind of stuck with me in that was that Dawkins wanted to make the supreme point that there were gradual changes over long periods of time. And I want to philosophically just address that for a moment of why he's not on board with rapid changes. And there is a reason. And here's the reason. Evolution is actually an irrational concept. Hold on. So why would I say that the proposal of evolution is irrational? And some of you that have been just educated this from day one might find this hard to believe, but just step back from the picture if you can and think about this. We see adaptation all the time. We see cats that come out as striped or spotted. We see dogs that are taller, or donkeys that are shorter, or horses that are fatter. We see adaptation all of the time. But one thing that we do not see, no matter how many births there are, is we don't ever see a cat birthing a dog. And of course, Dawkins is like, oh, of course not. We never see this because it's going to be slow, gradual adaptation. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that scientifically, what mankind sees is species replicating the same species, or the animals producing the same animals continually. And so it's actually an irrational thought to think that they could change, because what are the changes that we see? Well, maybe a dog comes out with one eye, or a cat comes out missing a paw. And those changes are not good changes. And so we have to, to sell this idea of irrationality, it's got to be stretched over a long period of time where maybe a lot of accidents strung together create something new. Now, this is interesting. This is very interesting because atheists in general will absolutely discard, have no room for, at least materialistic atheists, will say absolutely that there is no such thing as a miracle, nor can be a supernatural event of some sort or the other. But what kind of event is it that there is an accident that produces something good, and then another accident produces something good on top of that, and then another accident produces something good on top of that? We don't believe this naturally. And I will shift to a different scenario to try to make the case of this. So for instance, a couple of years ago, I got to visit Legoland in Chicago, and there are some magnificent buildings that these designers and artists have created. They've replicated all the great buildings of the world. Like there's the Sears Tower there. I think they had the Twin Towers that were there before. They had the Empire State Building. They make all sorts of things. So let's just say that you had a structure that was 25,000 pieces. Would you ever believe that it was built accidentally, or that it could be built accidentally? So let's take $100 million and build a super warehouse that has all of the bells and whistles to take a box, and you get to decide the size of the box, the shape of the box. And with computers and AI, you can shake the box any way you want. But the starting point has to be, we take all of those Lego pieces from the design of this building that has been structured, and we tear them apart, and then we add a whole bunch of other parts with it. And we're going to dump it into this box, this shaking box, and it can shake up or down. It can actually rotate and spin. It can stop for a while. It can vibrate. It can invert itself, and it can do this with any kind of frequency that you so choose. do you believe that a Lego building is ever going to come out of those Legos, that it's just going to merge? No, you don't. The reason being is because if there was, by some miraculous chance, that two Legos actually attached together in there, you'd be like, wow, look, it's happening. But our mind would let us know that within a few more shakes or turns or twists that those pieces would most likely come back apart. Let's say you could get 5 or 10 together. With shaking and twisting and vibrating, they would most likely come back apart. So chaos as far as creating something, that's just not plausible, but mentally you have to sell that. Like, and Richard Dawkins is a good salesman here. He's like, there's an old attaché or whatever you want to call it, logo, not logo. What did they call those? Like metaphor. Man, somebody put in the comments what I'm trying to look for. But it's an old saying that if you sell the first link in the chain, then you can sell the whole chain. And so he's like, oh, small gradual pieces over a long period of time. Except that in certain cases, like, so for instance, consider the red blood cells and clotting. What about the first animal that ever got a cut? Before blood knew that it needed to clot, the animal surely bled out. I mean, this is a hard world out there. We're talking about chaos and lava and meteors and animals eating animals and you surviving by your wits and etc. Even if an animal could, well, let's say yourself, let's say you could see that you've been cut and you're bleeding out. I'm going to die. I know enough that I'm going to die. Do you know enough about your body chemistry to change it so that you don't die? So the unlikelihood of this is just nil. However, this brings me back to Neil deGrasse Tyson's video. So he's here and they're discussing atheism. But what is really, really interesting, and I promised you that I would give proof that atheism is a religion, is that Neil ends the episode in an altar call. Now, I have been in church my entire life. I have been in small churches. I have been in large churches. I have visited churches in different states. I have visited churches hundreds and thousands of miles apart. And the altar call, invented in the 1800s, the altar call is, a new religious thing amongst Christians, but Neil has hijacked it. I mean, he hijacked it, baby. If you don't believe me, I'm just going to read the transcript from the end of the video because it is so telltale that it exposes how atheism is a religion that's anti-religion, but it's a religious commitment to us. Anyway, he ends by saying this, and you got to understand it's an interview. They're kind of talking back and forth, and then all of a sudden, Neil turns to the camera. And he begins to address the camera in a very somber, dedicated voice. And here's what he says. Richard, it has been a delight as always to have you here. Just let me end this with some brief reflections. Reflections, like meditation. Now that strikes me, number one, that just kind of strikes me as odd that you want to go into reflections. Like, this isn't meditation. This isn't yoga. Do I need your meditations? Like, give me science, give me information if that's who you are, if that's what you do. But meditations and reflections on how to live. And let me read the rest of it and then I will come back to that. So he goes, those among us who are educated on a level where you can't just hold it in. You have to sort of share the knowledge, wisdom, insights that one gleans from having committed your life to studying a subject and to its related components. And Richard Dawkins is an example of that. Carl Sagan used to say, when you're in love, you want to tell the whole world, or you want to tell the world. And where there are 24 books on this list that I have just read, this is Professor Dawkins can't contain his love, and he's got to share it for all those who seek a deeper understanding of this life, not only their own lives, but the lives of everyone around them, and the lives of all that came before us, and the lives of all those yet to be born. But in there, our messages of protecting our civilization, because without it, there will be no future. There will be no future lives to be born. And then what of our branch in the tree of life? We can't let the roaches and the rats take over after us. And that part he was kind of joking. Help us. That is the cosmic perspective. My goodness. That is the cosmic perspective. Neil deGrasse Tyson here, your personal astrophysicist. As always, I bid you to keep looking up. If that's not an altar call, I really don't know what is. Because not only did he zoom to the camera and take a slow, methodical, toned speech, but music begins to invade the background and kind of pipe up slowly. And look at all the religious imagery he throws in for good measure. He says, you who are educated on a level where you just can't hold it in. Do you understand that, like, compared to Christianity, like, we're told not to hold the good news in. We're told to share it with everyone. He's like, oh, well, you have this knowledge, so you're sharing it with everyone. And you share the knowledge, wisdom, and insights. Well, anybody that's read Proverbs knows where knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, those terms and concepts, came from way thousands of years back. So that's not new, but it's gleaned by Tyson. One gleans from having committed your life. Why is he so focused on this imagery except to provide a religious experience for the atheist to try to fill the void they miss by not having a true religious, or I'd say spiritual experience? I want you to have a spiritual experience, not a religious experience. So he's trying to provide, from having committed your life. What does Christianity ask for? You're supposed to commit your life to Christ. But those of us who have committed our life to studying a subject and its relating components. And Richard Dawkins is an example that Carl Sagan used to say, when you're in love and you want to tell the world. There are so many passages in the book of John and the books of John about loving your brothers, and you should tell them about the message, and if you truly love them, that you will tell the message. So you love and you tell the world. And then we're told to, not love the things of the world, but to love the people of the world and to offer them, something better and a way out. And this is just too close to be accidental. You're in love, you don't tell the world. And there are 24 books on this, and I just read this. Professor Dawkins can't contain his love. And that's, I thought, was humorous. He's like, and Professor Dawkins can't contain his love. Dawkins contains his love quite well. He typically likes to mock Christianity and mock the concept of God, and anybody that disagrees with him, he's just not loving. It's like Christians are told to, love your enemies and to actually give them some grace and give them some breathing room and offer things to them on good merit and goodwill. And he's like, well, Dawkins is a loving man. And Dawkins does not come across as a loving man by any stretch of the word. You could say pompous, arrogant, self-centered. And I'm not trying to judge. I'm just talking about the way his imagery comes across. I don't know him personally. I'm just talking about his image and the way he displays himself in the media. For those who seek a deeper understanding of what? Of science? So here's Neil deGrasse Tyson appealing to his science community and appealing to intellectuals and those that are smart and those that are with it. And do we just need understanding about physical things? Which is what science and information and learning are, because a deeper understanding of life. And not only their own lives, but the lives of everyone around them. All of a sudden, do you know how many times the Bible talks about life and giving life? And Christ being a wellspring of life. They said the lives of everyone around, and let me say this. If evolution and atheism are true, life is, Is it special? Maybe it's special to you, but is it special in general? Who knows? Who cares? Maybe it continues, maybe it doesn't. Where did it come from? Where does it spring from? We don't know. It doesn't matter. Yet, we all actually know life is special, and so that's why DeGrasse Tyson is calling this out and mimicking religious tones. He's appealing to life and life. So, who seek a deeper understanding of life, not only their own lives, but the lives of everyone around them, and the lives of all that came before us, and the lives of all those yet to be born. Atheism and evolution give us enough of excuses to not even care for the unborn. They're just animals. It's just an inconvenience. So you can abort them by choice if you so choose. But here, Neil deGrasse Tyson is putting on the religious garb. He's putting on the garb because he wants to show that he cares for the unborn, which is actually what the religious people do. So he's hijacking all of this. And all those who are yet to be born, but in there are messages of protecting our civilization. Of protecting our civilization. This is so skewed. Who's trying to destroy civilization? Especially where he's from, America. Who's trying to destroy America? I thought America was founded on Christianity, on people that were escaping Europe from severe persecution. I thought it was Baptist and Anabaptist and Moravians and the Reformed and the Dutch Reformed and the Sweden folk and etc. There are all kind of historic religious groups that came over to help settle America, and it's written into the backdrop of all of our legal documents. And he's like, and we're trying to protect civilization. Well, isn't he one of the ones that just flat out proposes taking Christianity out of the realm of science? It seems like he's the one that is wanting to revolutionize things, change things. But in there, our message is of protecting our civilization, because without it, there will be no future lives to be born. There he goes with lives again. He's like 5 or 6 times. The reason he's using the term life and lives, is because life is important. And this is what Christianity is all about. Your life is important. Giving it to God is important. Aligning yourself with how you're supposed to live is very important. And he's hitching onto this without adapting to it or without conceding to it. And he's borrowing it to try to make an impact in his viewers. And it must work, because why is he doing it? Without it, there will be no future lives to be born. And then what of our branch in the tree of life? How many religious iterations in this altar call do I have to give you before you begin to see clearly? Most atheists have probably read about 3 chapters of the Bible. Maybe more, but that's where most of them start, and they start trying to pick it apart from the very beginning. And so every atheist out there that's actually read a few chapters in the Bible knows where the term tree of life came from. To borrow it is to lean on religious, powerful imagery, but for the sake of atheism. Tree of life, and we can't help, let the roaches and rats take over after us, etc. Neil deGrasse Tyson here, your personal astrophysicist. What? One of the things that Christianity has done a very good job of in the last, I'd say 50 years or so, is communicating the idea that Jesus was personable. He said, I'm actually going to become a person. I'm going to actually come down here and become a person, live amongst you, and be personable with you. That one of the reasons that Christianity is different is that God himself is personal and gets into your personal life and into your personal business and wants to help you in those matters and in those ways. And so then his children are called to be like him. We're taught to be loving and kind and gentle and merciful, and actually to love people and actually care for people, which makes Christians very personable. And so the lead person of Christians is supposed to actually be the pastors. And so the pastor is supposed to be personal. And here all of a sudden, Neil is borrowing from that, because there are no qualifications on astrophysicists being personal. Who cares? If an astrophysicist is doing his job and finding things like 3I Atlas, if they're finding asteroids like this, or comets, I don't know what it's classified as at this point, but if they're finding things like this and they share the information proper and direct and as accurately as possible to us, then that's what we need, and we like that. But for him to say, I'm your personal astrophysicist, he is trying to appeal to the element of you that needs spirituality, that needs God, that needs somebody to be personal with you. But he's like, I'm your personal astrophysicist. As always, I bid you keep looking up. Well, he's talking about up to the stars, but how many times in the scripture it talks about, lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help? My help cometh from the Lord who made heaven and earth. How many times do we associate heaven with being up? And so I just bring that to your attention, that atheism, though it's not an exact religion, has so many religious qualities to it that it cannot be ignored. And Neil deGrasse Tyson's altar call is one of the main proofs of such.